already.
Okay, so welcome to Brown's Confectionery here at Sovereign Hill. My name is Tracy. I'm working with Ben today. You might wander back in a moment. Coffee is ready. That is the correct response. Now, the toffee at this point is just under 160 degrees. We're aiming for around 157. It is hot. If you get it on your skin, it's an instant blister. You cannot get to that cold tap behind you quick enough. We've all done it. It hurts, so we do try to avoid it. So we do have to be very, very careful. Your natural instinct when you burn yourself is to pull it off with your other hand, and then you burn that too. So you have to be very, very careful. Okay, so I'm assuming no one wants to lick the bowl. Very sensible people. Okay, quickly do my dishes. Hot coffee, hot water. The dishes pretty much do themselves. I'm just going to let that soak throughout the demo, and by the end, it'll pretty much be clean, and then I'll give it a quick rinse and go in. Try and recycle some of this water that's been left really. Okay, let's go back a step. In the pot, we use copper pots because they transfer the heat a lot more evenly. Now in the pot I had 5 pounds of water, that's the healthy part, 5 pounds of glucose, 15 pounds of sugar. Now it's been on the stove for roughly an hour. We've evaporated all that nice healthy water out, so pretty much a big pot of sugar. At that point, it could be any of the boiled sweets that we make here at Brown's Confectionery. They all start off the same way. Even our little pots I've got over on the shelf there for our lollipops and toffee apples, same ratio water, sugar, glucose, just on a smaller scale. Now, as soon as I pour it on the bench, it starts to pour Now I can touch that skin, providing I touch it in the correct spot. I don't want to touch the toffee on top still, otherwise it will still give me a nasty burn. So every time the toffee hits the table, it's going to fall on that skin, which is what's going to help it cool down. I'm going to ask everyone to be nice and quiet out in the audience, just so everyone can hear, and I don't have to keep raising my voice. So we're lucky to have this table. It's plugged into the water system, so we can regulate the temperature just with a little bit of water. Not sure if you've heard, it gets a little bit cold here in Ballarat. It was this morning. It's not going to be on Boxing Day apparently. So when we come in, this table's like ice, so we can run some more water through it to get it up to temp. After we've poured a few batches at 160 degrees, it gets quite hot, so we can cool it down. We want a nice even temperature because we don't want the toffee to take all day to set, but we also don't want it to set too quickly either. Now there is one last ingredient to add. This is citric acid. So citric acid is going to give our raspberry drops that nice tangy flavour. Have I mentioned I'm making raspberry drops? I don't think I have. Raspberry drops are our best-selling item here at Sovereign Hill. Now, this does look like sugar. You don't want to mistake this as sugar and pop that in your cup of tea. Very, very sour stuff. Does not have the same effect. So it's going to give the raspberry drops a nice tangy flavour. So for the next moment, I am going to throw the toffee on top of itself. I need it to cool down. Once it's cooled down a little bit, I'll give it a quick knead, cut it into smaller pieces, and then I'm going to roll it through our roller here. So while I'm doing this, we're going to have a little chat about our little business here and the factory that we're standing in. Now we are Brown's Confectionery. We're a little bit special here at Sovereign Hill. We're actually a continuation of a Goldfields business. So our little business here has been running in Victoria since the 1850s, give or take a fire or two along the way. A lot of the businesses you've seen in the main street of Sovereign Hill today are recreations. They were businesses that traded on the goldfields, that had traded and closed down, and then we recreated them. But here at Brown's, we are a continuation. So the Browns family, John, his wife Elizabeth, and their young son Thomas migrated here in the 1850s and settled in a place called Denali, which is about 100 k's north here of Ballarat. very close to a little town called Malivale, which is where they found the welcome stranger nugget, the largest gold nugget found to date. Now, John Brown was a pastry chef by trade. Part of that trade was confectionery making. They set up business in Denali and traded for many, many years. Thomas, the young son, grew up, became the head confectioner, took over the business, and then burnt it to the ground, along with the family home that was attached. Now, fires were very common on the goldfields. They had timber buildings, they had wood-fired stoves, candlelight, lantern light, so fires were very common. So after the Browns fire, they decided to make the move here to Ballarat. Now in Ballarat, the business thrived. They passed it on from generation to generation for many, many years, until in 1974, there was no one left to pass the business on to. So they kindly donated their business, their equipment and their recipes to a very young Sovereign Hill. They came in and trained our staff on the craft of confectionery making, and we still use their equipment and their recipes today. Now you can see that that's dramatically changed since I poured it on the bench a few moments ago. I'll cut it into smaller pieces. It's still forming that skin underneath, so I'll keep folding it so it cools down nice and evenly. I don't want to roll it too soon, otherwise it won't hold its shape. I don't want to roll it too late, otherwise it's too hard to get through the rolling machine. A bit of a time now. Now, if you're travelling around Ballarat at all, in the middle of town there is a big W store. Out the back of that store, there's a little brick building. You can still see Brown's Confectionery in the brickwork of that building. That is one of the original buildings they used when they moved here to Ballarat. Quite a statement they were making by putting their name in the brickwork. They were telling Ballarat that they were here to stay, and they certainly were. Now, I mentioned earlier the Browns family donated some equipment to us. This old stove here in the corner is an original wood-fired stove they used in their factory. We have had that converted to gas, which is great because I didn't have to go chop up firewood. And when we were done, I could just turn the dial and then turn it off. I believe they had 3 of these burning in their factory at all times. And they certainly didn't have a large factory like we have today, so it would have been quite warm in there. Now we make lollipops here in the factory. We make horsehead lollipops and umbrella lollipops. Both traditional shapes the Brown family made. The horsehead moulds are the original moulds. These ones here are over 100 years old. We still use these daily. So if you do happen to purchase a little horsehead lollipop at the shop, it has been made with one of these original moulds here in the factory. The one thing though that the Brown family did donate to us, that we probably use the most, probably cherish the most, is our rolling machine here. It's believed that John Brown purchased our roller second-hand before he migrated to Australia. So this actual machine came out on the boat with the Brown family when they migrated here from England in the 1850s. It's pretty much in its original form, other than the moulds that you see in it. The moulds now made of brass, because the original moulds were made of lead. Apparently we're not allowed to poison people anymore, so we're not allowed to use the lead rollers. You can see up on the back wall here, some of the dark colour moulds there are original moulds the Brown family donated. We don't use the dark ones because they do have high content of lead. So we've got about 5 or 6 different shapes that we can do. I've got our deep round on at the moment, which is probably our most common one, but I can do squares, triangles, little pea-sized ones, and shells. That's still hot. That's still probably around 80 degrees. It's still quite warm. I think we're nearly there. I'll show you how this works and then we'll start talking about colours. I've just got a big bit of colour in that one. I'll have to. Okay, colours. Nowadays in the factory we just use powdered colouring. So very similar to what you can purchase at the supermarket in a liquid form, we just make it into a liquid ourselves. The Brown family didn't have that luxury. They had to source their colours in other ways. So the lovely red here in our raspberry drop, the Brown family would have used something called cochineal red. Has anyone heard of cochineal red before? Usually I get a few nods out there. Now I can probably guarantee most of you have probably eaten it without knowing. So it's made up of thousands of female cochineal beetles that have been crushed up, dried out and made into a paste and then added to the lollies. It's actually very safe to eat. One of the safer ones the Browns family did use. Commonly used in food, cosmetics, clothing dyes. If you saw our red coat soldiers earlier on, their jackets were dyed with cochineal red. A lot of companies are steering away from it at the moment because it's become quite expensive. They used to farm it here in Australia, which they no longer do. Some of those companies that no longer use it are Skittles. Red Skittles used to contain cochineal. So Soft Marshmallows here in Ballarat used to have it in their pink marshmallows. And Allen's Confectionery stopped using it in their red products. There are still a couple of companies that are still using it. We discovered Nestle Quick, Strawberry Quick still has cochineal in it. Clinkers is another one that still has cochineal. We haven't used it here at Brown's for many, many years. Now if the Browns family wanted orange, they'd go out the back, find a rusty bucket and add some rust to the pot, and that would give them orange. Yellow, a little bit more water to the bucket. Green was chlorophyll. So a bit of grass or down to the creek for a little bit of algae, pop that in the pot. Brown was boiled up stringy bark, or pretty much any bark from the firewood just to release the tannins. And black was squidding, if you could get it. Just not many squid around Denali and Ballarat back in the day. So they needed to find something more readily available. So instead, they would grab their spatula, go straight to their chimney and scrape a little bit of chimney soot in the pot. And that would give them a lovely black colour. Now, food safety regulations have come into play, so we don't quite make it the same way the Brown family did back on the goldfields, which I'm sure you'll all appreciate. Now you can see this toffee, as I'm winding it, each piece gets a little bit harder to go through the machine. The toffee's sitting on the table behind me as I'm speaking. Certainly no gym memberships needed when you work here in the factory.
Good, I don't have.
Now boiled sweets were a bit of a luxury item. Sugar was still being imported in, generally from the Caribbean, so it was quite expensive. Clean water was hard to come by. If you wanted clean water, you had to travel long distances to get it. Generally the local water was polluted. The town folk were mining the creeks, the streams, the rivers. They were washing themselves, their clothes, probably their chamber pot in the local water. So you did want to use that for your boiled sweets. So you travel long distances to get clean water. So it made boiled sweets quite expensive. So generally, on the goldfields, boiled lollies were for adults only, not for children. Children were very lucky that maybe on a Sunday, they'd done all their chores, helped out around the house, milked the goat, maybe they get one boiled sweet, but one boiled sweet only. Another reason you may get a boiled lolly would be if you were ill. And very early on it was more medicinal. So, you had if you want to clear your head, you'd have eucalyptus. Upset stomach, you would have ginger. Freshen your breath, you'd have spearmint or peppermint. If you had a toothache, you'd have a clove lolly. And if it needed to be kept regular, aniseed was the lolly for you. It wasn't until a little bit later on they added the nicer fruit flavours, and then they had to be in season at the time for them to be able to produce them. 8.2 kilos of toffee produces 2,000 lollies per batch. We do about 6 to 8 batches per day here in the factory. Our raspberry drops are by far our best seller. They outsell all of our lollies combined. Add it all up, raspberry drops still sells more. If you do want to buy sweets today, Spencer's is in the main street across from the post office. They stock our full range in either traditional 4-ounce bags or in jars. We have a large wholesale market now. They're popping up all over Australia. And if you happen to eat all your raspberry drops in the car on the way home, we do have an online store as well. You can order them and get them delivered straight to your door. Now I added some flour. The flour stops the lollies from becoming sticky. We use a combination of maize and rice flour, so it is gluten-free, so more people can enjoy our sweets. We're a nut-free factory, haven't had nuts in the factory for over 10 years. And when we do dairy, we generally do it at the end of the day so we can wash all our equipment and start again the next day. So we're gluten-free, nut-free, dairy's done at the end of the day. Unfortunately, we're not sugar-free. That's all sugar. Okay, they're going to sit here on the bench for about 5-10 minutes. They need to cool down. Once they've cooled down, I'll break them up. They'll go through the sieves that'll take off all the sharp corners, take away the crumb, and then they're ready to be sent for jarring or for bagging. So, just for demonstration purposes, to break them up, we simply do this. So there's a thin webbing of coffee in between each lolly, and that breaks up quite easily. Who would like to try a nice warm raspberry drop? A few volunteers I see. I do see a little issue. Quite a few small hands in the air. Can you remember on the Goldfields, boiled sweet was for adults only, not for children? All your children should have come on Sunday. That's when children got boiled sweets. I'll re-ask my question. Any adults who'd like to try a nice warm raspberry drop? Okay, you just have to tell the children how they taste. I tell you what, I do have 2,000 lollies. I do like to share, so I think everyone can have one. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pop a couple of trays up each end of the room. If you just take one and then pass it along. They're hard-boiled lollies. I want you to suck them. They're still warm. I don't want you to damage your teeth, especially when you're here at Sovereign Hill. Local dentist is not here, so we'd have to send you to the blacksmith. Great blacksmith, not such a great dentist. Got some pretty cool tools, but please suck the lollies. If you run out, wave it in the air. I'll come and fill it up. Please don't steal my trays. There's no historical significance to these trays other than we've got to keep replacing them. Thank you all for coming to see our demo today here at Brown's Confectionery. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day here at Sovereign Hill. Thank you.